Hi and welcome to the very first vlog of 30 books in 30 days in which I tried to read 30 books in 30 days. I'm doing this from the 1st of July until the 30th of July, giving me one extra day to edit videos, whatever. So I'm going to make weekly vlogs. Welcome to week 1. I'm going to start with the books that came from my June TBR that I didn't read yet. First of all, I have an essay about chronically ill women. Easy to read in a day. Not worried about this. Slightly worried about the other book that I'm about to show you. And that is Anne and Bede by George Eliot. You would think, Milena, just put this back on your TBR. Why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I already started it. I have read a little over 100 pages and now I'm invested. So I want to read the rest of it. This is not a good start of my 30 books in 30 days, but still, I'm doing it. And then another book that I started listening to because I needed a new audiobook is Better Than the Movies. This is a YA romance, and we're starting out with a girl who has lost her mother, and they were both very obsessed with rom-coms. We noticed that she is very passionate about rom-coms and she dresses in a very romantic style. I think she talks about wearing an A-line vintage dress and she's wearing like a vintage red lipstick. So we have a lovely quirky main character. It might be enemies to lovers because she's talking about, what's his name, Eli? And she's talking about a guy that is like her arch nemesis. So only listened to an hour of it, but it seems already really fun. Really like the tone of the novel. Not really sure about the dialogue. I usually find dialogue in YA quite cringe and the audiobook narrator is not helping. This sounds really fun and I've heard really good things about this book, actually better than I thought while reading the premise. So the first 3 books I'll read are these and Better Than the Movies, but Anne and Bede, I will finish it by the end of this vlog, but I will definitely pick up more books, of course, because we need to read 7 books in this vlog. That is like going to be the thing, 7 books in every vlog, so 1 book a day. This vlog might be a little bit longer than 7 days. I will come back to you when I've actually done some reading. It is the 1st of July, so the first day of this challenge, and I decided to start off with something I knew I could easily finish in a day. So I read what it was a graphic novel, but I think it's a little bit more of a classic comic, and that is Something is Killing the Children. This is a comic series. I think it has a lot of volumes. I just read the first volume. We follow different perspectives as we discover that there is a monster that is killing the children, and it may be a little bit Stranger Things like, but way more dramatic. The horror element is very prevalent. It's very disgusting. I don't really mind that kind of horror, but I also don't love it. I think the first 2 chapters of this like comic graphic novel, I thought this would be a 2-star because I thought it was very fragmented and I didn't really feel the flow or good introduction into the story, and I very much felt like I was reading a story that I had read before 1,000 times. And also the dialogue, I think this is usually just a me thing, but just the way dialogue is written in comics, I just don't really get along with. I very much prefer more artistic, quirky graphic novels than actual comics. But like the last chapter, so chapter 5 and kind of chapter 4 as well, really gripped me, and I sped through it because I really wanted to know what happened, and I thought it was a great setup or great promise for the rest of the series. So I feel like authors really got their grasp on the later chapters. So I gave it a 3-star in the end. So that means that we have our very first book of the 30 books, something very annoying also happened. And I don't know, somehow it stressed me out because I had made an entire list on Scribd of things I wanted to read and listen to for this challenge this month. And I know that Scribd has a limit, but I've barely ever reached it. But I think they have changed it because in June I listened to 3 or 4 audiobooks, and right after I had finished the graphic novel, which I read on Scribd, almost my entire list disappeared and I won't have access to it until the 9th of July. I didn't even have that at the end of the month when I did 30 and 30, when I listened so much. So I think they have changed their policy. There's no way that this is unlimited anymore because I just listened to a few audiobooks in June. Like, you can watch my June wrap up and you will see that I have barely any audiobooks to talk about. I think I did most of my listening with an Audible credit. So I'm very disappointed in this. I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more for Scribd and then just getting actual unlimited access. I don't have an audiobook service for my library. Scribd is basically all I have, and this is messing with my plans so much because I had kind of made a TBR for this week. I wanted to listen to a short story by N.K. Jemisin. I wanted to listen to Page Boy by Elliot Page, and both of them I now have to wait for. And that is just not great for this challenge. It sounds like a petty thing to complain about, but it really demotivated me today. It was just annoying. So I actually sent them a message like, what is up? I barely listen to any audiobooks. What is happening? And if they respond that this is like their new policy, I will be looking at other options because this is just false marketing. And I think there are other audiobook services that are cheaper, that are transparent about the fact that you can only like listen to a certain amount of hours in a month. But honestly, I listen to so many audiobooks even when I don't do a challenge. I need an app where I can just listen to as much as I want for the sake of my mental health. I did read a little bit more of Adam Bede. I will do that now the rest of the evening so I could finish it by the end of the week. Luckily, they didn't like made any current listens disappear. Then I would have been truly pissed. I think I can still listen to Better Than the Movies. Guess I'll just focus on that. But I wanted to read more graphic novels. A lot of them are on Scribd. So yeah, having a little bit of a crisis, but at least we have our first read down. It is the second day of 30 books in 30 days and I'm really happy with my outfit today because I have this dungarees, which is so freaking comfortable, and I am wearing my Virginia Woolf shirt, which fits with the book. Wait. Which fits with the essay that I started my morning with. This is a review copy that I got of Sick Woman Theory, which is translated in Dutch. And oh my gosh, I haven't read in Dutch, which is my first language, in such a long time, and it was really refreshing to do so. So this is about how to move into the world, into politics and activism when you are sick. I don't really feel like talking about the specifics of this book because I've noticed that I don't love to talk about chronic illness literature. I don't mind like talking about my personal experiences, but I don't know, this feels always very private to me because of course I could really identify with everything that Johanna Hedva was talking about because I am also chronically ill myself, but I'm sure you know that by now. I will leave a link to the digitally published essay in English. It doesn't take a lot of time. Boy also read it this morning because I told him it was interesting and he found it very interesting as well. So that is the second book and I gave it 5 stars. It was written in 2016, but this one was published in 2023 and it was a review copy that I got, I want to say for free, but it's in exchange for a review. So I do need to take an Instagram photo for it and write a review. And I don't know, this outfit I think would work for a nice photo if I added my outfit to the photo. So I might do that today as well. Another thing I'm going to do today is go to the thrift store, which has been the equivalent of a bookstore when talking about joy since we moved into this home, and I want to get some extra frames because I got some printables from Etsy and I just want to make my home more colorful. I have some flowery prints, but also some William Morris prints, and I'll add something to the bathroom because I have said this before, but I don't have the budget for renovation, which it does need, but I do have the budget to make everything prettier and more colorful. So that is what we're going to do. I also this morning, like I think I told you my little script rant and my little... I got a lot of responses from you guys on Instagram. It is a shared pain that we all share together. So I decided to look at my physical TBR to see what I want to read. Will you see the reflection as this is annoying to look at, isn't it? Well, I will just tell you. Cheerful weather at the wedding. I want to read in this vlog. Also want to read Things Fall Apart. Oh, there we go. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. So I think I will read those 3. And I did read a little bit more of, let's see, here we have The Beast. I read a little bit more of Bede. This is hard to say if I enjoy it or not. It is an enjoyable reading experience, but it does have a plot, but it's very much just living with the characters, and that is something that I really enjoy in Victorian literature, so I don't mind it. I'm reading it on my Kindle because sometimes that's just more comfortable. In classics you can get for free. It's 600 pages. I'm like 25% of the way through. Oh dear. Okay, well, I will finish that. It's unrealistic plans, for crying out loud. Yes, so I'm going to the thrift store. I might take you with me. I don't know yet. It kind of depends how busy it is, and then I'll talk to you if I've read anything more.
I could sit around and wait all day. You lay easy on my mind, like a candle I just burn away. All we really have is time. All we really have is time. I don't wanna waste it on anybody. Take it with anybody but you. I don't wanna waste it on anybody. Take it with anybody but you.
Good morning. Today is the 4th of July, so I didn't talk to you yesterday because I was getting my hair done. I just felt like chopping off a big part of my hair, so I went to the hairdressers yesterday. And this is my new hair, and I'm very happy with it. I usually have very long hair, but it was time for a change. That's why we have short hair, and since I've been wearing a lot of earrings, I thought it'd be perfect. I did go to the thrift store, and usually I don't really look for books at my local thrift store because they don't usually have the things I'm looking for. But they did have 1,000 Splendid Suns, which is a book that Lucy and Sarah told me to read after we read And the Mountain Echoed for the Hobbitses book club, and I didn't really love that one, and they said that I would love this more. So when I saw it for €2 at the thrift store, I thought I would pick up a copy. I think in a b-roll I showed you a pocket edition. They had two, surprisingly, but I picked up the bigger one because I think the big paperbacks are way nicer to read than the pocket ones. This is about two women, Lila and Miriam, who are both married to older men and find consolation in each other. Their friendship to grow as deep as the bond between sisters, as strong as the ties between mother and daughter. Sounds better, I think, than And the Mountains Echoed. I didn't dislike the writing in any way. I just didn't enjoy it thematically. So this sounds maybe more up my alley. I won't read it this month, I think, but I'm happy to have it. I did finish a book, so I finished book number 3 yesterday, and that was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and this is one of the best romances I've ever read. Definitely the best YA romance I've ever read. I'm very skeptical of YA romances, partly because I find them a little bit cringe sometimes, but also because I'm a grown woman and sometimes it feels a bit old to gush over teenagers in love. It feels a bit uncomfortable sometimes, but this, oh my gosh, I loved it so much. Usually when I read a romance, I feel like some parts I kind of dislike and I wish it was done differently. Sometimes it's a little bit overdone, or we have a character that's very annoying, but this book was just perfect. It's a perfect romance. I gave it 4.5 stars, but maybe I should just give it a 5 stars because there's not a single thing I would change about this book. What I really loved were all the movie references, especially because I think they are kind of catered towards my generation. They were all the films that I watched when I was a teen, or maybe she is watching a lot of her mom's favorite films. So maybe I am the mom in this scenario. Oh, isn't that just a lovely realization? Yeah, but her mom loved a lot of same films as I did as a teen. The romance was just so sweet, so incredibly sweet and beautiful. The main character is oblivious and stupid, just in the right amount, and it just all works so well. There is a lot of miscommunication, but it doesn't get annoying, which I feel like is such a unique thing. Overall, would highly recommend. Then of course I want another audiobook because I still have to wait 5 days before I can pick the books I really want to read from Scribd. I decided to spend an Audible credit on The Shadow Cabinet. I thought it's on my TBR, so I might as well just start listening to it, and I know that I really like the narrator. I listened to about 2 hours of that and I'm already loving it. It's already just as good as the first one. I'm already getting back into the world. I did have to think a little bit about who is who, but it really ties very neatly into the ending of the first one. Yeah, and we got some things that I wanted to see. All I'm going to say, because I'm going to give zero spoilers for this one because it's so new. I think not a lot of people have read it. I also want to encourage you to read the first one if it sounds like anything you would like. It will take me a while to finish that one. And then this morning I started, well, you won't be able to see which book this is. This is The Dust Jacket on Earth Are Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I've only read a few pages. I can already see why people say that the writing is so beautiful and poetic. I don't think I will finish it today because I don't have an audiobook for this one, and usually I would then listen to like 1 hour of the audiobook while I do stuff that needs doing in a day. What is special about this book, I think, is that he is talking about his mother and the experience he had with his mother, especially her abuse, as if she is dead. He very clearly says that she is still alive. Don't have anything to say about this book yet because I only read 10 pages. But that is kind of what I want to read today and maybe tomorrow. And then yesterday evening I focused on Bede again. Let's see how far I'm in. Wow, I'm opening it just on the right page. I am on page 227. Take a bookmark. So this is how far I am in, which is a decent chunk. I still have very similar feelings about it, but I don't think I've actually told you what Bede is about. This is an early work of one of my favorite authors, who is George Eliot, who wrote Middlemarch, which is one of my favorite books. And after reading Middlemarch, I decided I wanted to read all of George Eliot's works, and this was the very next one on the TBR. This was on my June TBR, but I only read 100 pages of it in June, so I'm dragging it into this month. I think the core of this novel is a love triangle between Bede and a young squire and a girl named Hetty. She's a farmer's daughter, so she's much more in Adam's class. He is a carpenter. Then she is in the squire's class, but Hetty feels like she wants to marry the squire, but I don't think that will happen. The setting is very much a provincial town. You meet a lot of different people from a very provincial class. It's quite enjoyable because it in a way feels unique because all these people are lower classes, and sometimes the dialogue is a bit difficult to read, especially from Adam's mother, who is one of the most annoying characters, but maybe also one of the most realistic characters. Maybe she's so annoying because the way the audiobook narrator, because I'm listening along with the audiobook, she has a very high-pitched voice and a very whiny, which I think fits Adam's mother because Adam lives together with his mother, his father, and his brother Seth, and in the beginning of the novel his father dies. I think he's going to take on a lot of responsibility. It's already discussed how he's way more responsible than his brother Seth. And then, one of the most interesting characters who's also making me very uncomfortable is Dinah. She is a young woman, I think. She's like in her late 20s, something like that. I'm not sure, but she's definitely not young. She's a Methodist, which I think most of the people in this town are not. Some are. And she is also a preacher, and that's quite unique because she's a woman preacher, and she really feels very connected to her calling, as she calls it. And the things that she says and the way that she tries to help people, just her literal dialogue makes me quite uncomfortable because I'm like, oh no. Her intentions are quite beautiful and she really is helping people. I do have a prediction of what is going to happen to her throughout the novel because she has quite a big role in a book called Bede. And they are not related in any way. I think the romances in this book are going to cause a lot of conflict. They already have a little bit, but I still have 2/3 of this book to go. But it's definitely a very, very slow one and it's not very eventful. So that is why I'm not reading it very, very fast. When we went to the thrift store, I did find the frames I wanted and I hung it in the bathroom and I quite like it. It's really cute. It's really cheerful. I also got 2 vases that I hung up in the kitchen because our kitchen is quite sleek and modern. kind of. It has a lot of black and silver, and that is just not my vibe. So I try to romanticize my kitchen a little bit with pieces that I buy and that I DIY. I also DIY like an older vintage looking cabinet for my mugs. Just things like that make me very happy. And if you hear cats in the background, it's because they are having the zoomies. Oh, I bought like a golden sprayed wine rack. We don't really drink alcohol, but I can store different things in there. It kind of felt like a bit of a vintage vibe for the kitchen. Like anything more romantic or vintage for my kitchen is going home with me. Boy also found a DVD of Persuasion, like the old one. We are not talking about the new one. I don't think I've ever seen the whole film, just parts of it. I don't really remember, but I love collecting these kind of adaptations because they're so difficult to find on streaming services. I've been really creating a love for going to the thrift store. I didn't really do that earlier because we didn't have a car, and then it's just so much easier to buy things online and have it delivered because you can only take so much, like when you go with the bus or with your bike. So now that we live here and we have a car, I think I go to the thrift store at least once a week. And also our home was built in the 90s, in the 1990s, which it is modern, but also not that modern. I love the modern bits of our home in a practical sense because we never have any issues with electricity or heating or isolation. Everything is like modern because it was done in the 90s. But the style, like I don't love. So with this home, I'm focusing a lot on making it more, I don't want to say old, but maybe a little bit old. So going to the thrift store and getting the core pieces that feel a little bit more timeless, I want to say, makes me very, very happy. And it's a big focus for me. Also making it colorful. Give me a can of paint and I'm the happiest girl alive. Picking colors, paint colors, very difficult. But the great thing with paint is that you can make a mistake and redo it. It's money and time, but you can fix it. I am planning on doing a little bit more painting this weekend because I asked my dad and my brother and my mom, I don't know who's coming exactly, but my dad is coming at least, to help me paint the outside of the house because it hasn't been done in years and it shows. So I already did the windows to the garden, which were different colors, and I decided to just paint it a very dark gray, which I found very scary, but I'm happy with how it turned out. And now I have to still paint in the same color the door of the garden shed and the front of the house. I'm just going to keep the same colors because it's like the front of the street and everyone can see it, and there are certain rules. I don't know if that's a rule everywhere, but it's quite strict in the Netherlands. The windows or your house on the street side you're not really allowed to do a lot with. It like decreases the value of their neighborhood or something. It's something pretentious, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But basically we just need to repaint the white and get everything just nice and neat. And so I asked my family to help me out with that, especially because on our second floor, so the office windows, we need like a big ladder to do everything, and I would like some muscle to help out with that so that no one falls off the ladder, because I think if it would be just me and Boy, we are both clumsy people. And my family is not a clumsy family. I think that's going to be needed. When they were doing renovations on their house, like they renovated their entire house, they did a lot of things themselves. And back when I was still living there, like 12 years ago, it's been a long time, I sometimes offered my help and I was always declined. Right now that I have lived in my own homes for a longer time, I think they would accept my help. Then they were just afraid I would ruin the materials, and rightfully so, may I add. Their renovation did teach me a lot, like how to use a drill. My mom did teach me how to paint, even though I was never allowed to do anything important. Clearly I wouldn't do it well enough, but that taught me a lot and it helped me out when we had our own homes, so I can do a lot of things myself. It's really nice to have my dad just come over and help me with certain things. There was a big ramble on the house. I will chapter this vlog so that if you're not interested in house stuff, you can skip that. I get a lot of responses from you guys that you love little house updates. That's it for now. I'm going to read more of this one, maybe do some house stuff, but I don't know. I'm lazy this week. It is the same day, it is the evening, and I did do some reading today, although my eyes weren't really having any physical reading. I read about half of On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Yes, I read until page 119, and I'm watching some sprints right now. It is 10:30 in the evening, so it's almost time to go to bed. But I'm going to take a shower, get my makeup off, and then I think read for one more sprint, and then I'll go to bed. So hopefully I will get to around page 140, something like that. And then tomorrow hopefully I can finish this baby. And I recently rewatched the first season of Heartstopper and I enjoyed it so much, and I noticed I am up to date with the graphic novels, but I haven't read the novella yet. So I thought I could do that as well tomorrow. I saw that it was only €2 on Kindle, so I can buy that. Also tomorrow my mom is coming by and we're just going to like eat lunch, have chats. So I will be social tomorrow and read and do nothing else, because I did do some things in the house today. Proud of myself, well done. So I switched to the audiobook for a bit because my eyes were not having the physical read. The audiobook is narrated by the author himself, but I didn't love the audiobook. This book is very poetic, very purple prose, and I think I can read that more easily physically than through audio, because even though it is beautifully narrated, it's kind of narrated as if it were a poem, and it got a little bit almost too much for me, the writing through audio. But then I switched tonight again to the physical, and I feel no problem with the prose physically at all, so I'm just going to keep on reading it like that. I don't think this will be a 5-star, but it will come very, very close, because it's just a beautiful novel about a guy my age, 28, I think he says that he is in current day. He talks about his childhood, he talks a lot about the abuse of his mother, and then he's very aware of how he slides between the pieces of abuse and the pieces of love, because you can definitely see that he has love for his mother even though he experienced so much abuse. So we slowly follow him throughout the past. We have gotten to his teens and we see that the abuse kind of takes shapes and how he deals with growing up. It's beautifully done. There's a lot of space for generational trauma, for war trauma, immigrant experiences. There's a lot of space for the things that his mother and his grandmother experienced and that he experienced through them. It's a good novel, like everyone says it is. It is good. It is great. The writing, I think, like I said, physically it is fine for me. It's almost too poetic for me, but not yet. I can still handle it. Before I spend all my time chatting to you, I'm going to take a shower and do one more sprint and then I go to bed. Also, I'm really enjoying my hair. So happy I took the leap yesterday. Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I have finished 2 books. The first one is this one, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. My feelings are pretty similar as when I last updated you about this book. I think the writing is not 100% for me. I think it is a tad too poetic, but I can fully see how other people would not feel that way and would feel just the beauty and the writing speaks to their soul. I can absolutely see that. For me it wasn't quite that, but I did appreciate everything this book was about. I thought it was also really well done how it talks about gay relationship in your teenage years. There was a lot of space for that. Again, I think my overall feeling of this book is that there's just a lot of space for a lot of themes and exploration, and that I think the poetic way of writing does create that space. As a book, it absolutely does what it needs to do. And I did enjoy reading it. Most of it, sometimes it kind of dragged for me, but maybe that's because I read it in 2 days. But a 4-star, like I told you yesterday, I also read yesterday evening Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This was written in 2015, so it was written before the graphic novels. But this is set, like in the timeline, it is set after the graphic novels. Oh, that's awkward. I think my book is being delivered. And like, I'm talking to my kitchen cabinet. So Nick and Charlie are a gay couple in high school, and this follows their last summer in high school. Or Nick is 1 year older, so Nick's last year in high school, and it follows them through, I think, quite adult issues in their relationship and how they want to continue their relationship after high school. The content of the book I really, really loved. I love the characters as well, but I think that's because I know them from the graphic novels. Oh, rude, not even my book. So I know them from the graphic novels, and that's why I love Nick and Charlie and all their friends. I think the way their relationship issues were portrayed was really well done, especially for their age. I also like that this was, for YA, it was pretty saucy. I wouldn't want to call it smutty, but it definitely does not deny the existence of sex, which I think a lot of YA novels do, or this is a novella. But I didn't love the writing. I can definitely see that it's one of Alice Oseman's earlier works and therefore just wasn't as good as the graphic novels. The writing was very telling and not a lot of showing. The chapters were divided between perspectives of Nick and Charlie, and I did like the play with that, but they were really explaining their feelings and not really showing their feelings in actions, because I really actually did not love the writing, but I really did appreciate the contents. It's gonna be a 3-star. I was looking at other novellas within the Heartstopper universe, and there is one that is Christmas themed, and it's July, so that is very off theme, but I know I can get through it in the evening. I will keep it in mind if I get behind on the challenge. But for today, it is first day. I want to read more of Bede. I'm starting to regret wanting to read this one more and more. I'm almost halfway through now, and I am hosting some reading sprints tonight, so hopefully that will help me make some way through NMB. But in all honesty, when I'm hosting reading sprints, especially with my Hobbitses friends, it's a lot of chatting and maybe not as much reading as I would actually do without reading sprints. So it's mainly just gonna be a social evening, which is really nice. Lunch with my mom yesterday was really nice as well. It left me really tired and sleepy, so reading actually worked out pretty well. Today I feel a bit restless, I feel a bit bored, but I shouldn't be doing a whole lot because of course I want to save my spoons, my energy for the reading sprints tonight. Don't know what I'm going to do with myself today, but I am going to make a cup of coffee now. So yesterday was a very busy but very successful day. We got all the painting done we needed to do, except for the front doors. I will have to do that somewhere next week. We painted all the windows outside. I think I'm noticing how much more involved the neighborhood is here than in our previous home, because a lot of people on the street were just looking at what we were doing, of course, and were complimenting us and really appreciating that we were working on the front of our house. That was actually kind of nice, and it was really fun to do. My brother was the only one who doesn't have a fear of heights, so he was the one who went up the ladder to do the bits we couldn't do from the inside, but it was very successful. And I'm happy it looks so much better now. We are enjoying another little heat wave, so I'm taking a chill today and tomorrow probably as well. Today it is Saturday, so I have 2 more days of this vlog before I edit and upload it. But yesterday evening I did some miracle work because I finished Bede and I had over 200 pages left. I put the audiobook on 2x speed, read my Kindle and just finished it. And this was really surprising because the second half of this book is so incredibly different in pace than the first half of the book. The first half is very much a slice of life of country life. So much happens in the second half. We have vicious scandal. We have a racing plot. Almost feels like a mystery because there's such a big part of the book where there's actually something more going on but the reader doesn't know. So my mind was kind of blown. I cannot really give this more than 3.5 stars because the first half of the book kind of dragged, was kind of boring, and it was so different. And it was not at all as engaging as the second half of the book. I think it's George Eliot's debut novel, but I'm not even sure. Bede was George Eliot's debut novel, and it's quite clear because the second half is so much better than the first half. But I really did enjoy the second half a lot, but I cannot really tell you why without spoilers, so that is a bit of a shame. This book is political in a very clever way, where it's not political because of the dialogue, but because of how certain events tie together. I think George Eliot was very critical of the way that landlords and landowners treat their tenants, how that power balance kind of works and how people view each other. She really writes very cleverly about differences between men and women and how certain actions have different consequences based on your gender. But again, I can't really talk about it in detail without spoilers. This morning I decided to read one of the books that I selected for this week that I was actually most excited about, and that is Things Fall Apart. This is a Nigerian classic from the 1950s. We follow a Nigerian man who has a very warrior-like reputation. We just follow him in this very patriarchal society in which he lives, and he is very violent, very big. He breathes very loud. That is how he is described. And I know something tragic is going to happen from watching reviews from other people. So I read about 25 pages after breakfast this morning, and then we went out to do some stuff. Will I? I don't think I'll finish it today, but I might give it a go to finish it today and then listen maybe to a short audiobook tomorrow so that I can keep on track, because right now I think I'm 2 books behind right now, which I don't really mind because I finished and Bede. I will update you again tomorrow about this book. So welcome to the last day of this vlog. I do have some good news because I finished this book and I gave it 4 stars. Things Fall Apart is quite a unique story about this man who is embedded in a society that he really benefits from. As a young boy who already builds a reputation of what a man is supposed to be, he really benefits from the way that this patriarchy in his society is built. But throughout the novel, the price he has to pay for that keeps on getting higher. And when missionaries come into his country, he notices that they don't only bring religion, which he doesn't really fear, but they also bring government, which starts to really work against him. He starts to lose his idea of manhood. I think the length of this novel, 150 pages, is really perfect for what it tries to do, because it is really singular about a man and how he identifies with his manhood, and therefore this book is very male, but in a very interesting way that I actually really enjoyed. I don't usually like testosterone heavy books, but this one was super interesting. I felt like everything in this book was really very deliberate. The writing is quite matter-of-factly, quite dry, and I think it really worked for the dialogue, but it didn't really work for the descriptions for me. So even though I don't really have a bad thing to say about the writing, I do think when it came to descriptions and like setting a scene or setting a time period, I did have some trouble really connecting with the writing and really enjoying my reading experience. So I think content-wise it would be a 5-star, but because the writing wasn't fully for me, I think that's like a theme in this vlog. I often don't really love the writing in these books. I'm noticing this week. Still something I would highly recommend that you read. So I'm glad I read this. I also listened to an audiobook called The City Born Great by N.K. Jemisin. This is a short story about a boy who has been turned out of his home by his mother, and he has this connection with the city, with New York City. First it kind of feels like a contemporary novel, but the concept of cities being alive is very much a sci-fi fantasy element, because it's not just a metaphor, it's actually happening. We follow this boy as he has different encounters with people and with the police, and I think this short story was the inspiration for an entire book series that N.K. Jemisin, I think, is still in the middle of. Or maybe it's a duology and it's finished. Like, see, I never know these things. But I was never really drawn to that. Even though I love the Broken Earth trilogy, I wasn't really drawn to that trilogy because it felt more sci-fi than fantasy to me. But having read this short story, I am interested because I really like the dreamlike feel of the concept. But I also really enjoy N.K. Jemisin's writing because it's just so incredibly good. You kind of have to go along with it. Not everything really makes sense. You kind of have to accept that you are thrown into this world and that you just have to like ride the waves of the writing and then everything will be fine. It's not the kind of fantasy where things are really explained to you, but I really love that about N.K. Jemisin's writing, so I gave this short story a 4-star as well. Would again highly recommend. So that is it for this week's vlog, and I have read. I'm gonna put it up above where I'm at right now. I know I'm a little behind, but I hope I can catch up in next week's vlog. Yeah, I do have big books, but I don't have a Victorian classic on the TBR for next week. So I think I could catch up with the 30 books in 30 days. So this was week 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see week 2, 3 and 4, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and then we can chat about more books together in the future. For now, I hope that you have a lovely day or evening, and I hope to see you in another video. Doei!